Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be changing over our 2019 Forrest River Greywolf 26RR camper. We're going to be converting it over to lithium ion. This is going to be a two-part video. This first part, we're going to be installing a Vevor 80 amp RV converter and charger, and we're also going to be installing two lithium ion phosphate 100 amp hour group 31 batteries. I chose this battery because I wanted a battery with the Bluetooth, because the battery level meter inside the camper will not read correctly. Now it'll show you the voltage, but not the capacity. So both these batteries, I did download the app already. It's pretty sweet the way it works, and I think it's going to work out good for us. So in the second part of this video, we'll be installing a DC to DC charger, which is mostly to protect the alternator in the truck. So that part is not here yet, and I think it'd be too much for one video, so we're going to go ahead and make a second video for installing the DC to DC charger. So let's get started with this. We're going to start inside the camper. So the first thing we're going to do, well, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect. We're on shore power, but if you have a generator running, you want to shut the generator off and disconnect your shore power if you're connected to that. Also, if you still have your batteries, you're going to want to disconnect your batteries and remove the 12 volts from the camper. You don't want any power in the camper while you're doing this. The converter is actually located in the bottom of this fuse and circuit breaker panel. So we're going to start by removing the front part of this panel, which is just two screws. It's kind of hard. I have a better camera, but I cannot get to it because we're currently living inside this camper. So until we can get in there, I'm kind of doing this just on my cell phone. But this is right here. This is the converter that we're going after. Now the new unit is a little bit bigger, and so I'm kind of hoping it's going to fit. May have to make some modifications, but I'm hoping it's not. Another thing too is also the way that this one is wired in. You can see the wires from the converter down here, and they come up and they're actually wired into the 110. There's no plug. So the new unit comes with a plug on it. It's a 110 plug, but it's got a sideways terminal in it, and there's nothing like that inside of here. So we're going to probably have to modify that a little bit. So what we're going to do now is these two screws right here hold the converter in. We'll take those screws out, and the converter will pull out. Then there's 4 screws here on the outside, and they hold the whole box in, which I'm not sure if we're going to have to take that out on this one. We will. I'm thinking about putting the DC charger back in here. There is some room back in here, but that'll be in the next video. Okay, so we've removed the 2 screws that hold the converter into the electrical center here. And once those screws are removed, you can just pull this unit out. It's just the 2 screws that hold it in. So this is the 12 volt side right here. The wires do go in behind this other circuit board, which I believe we're not going to take it loose here. If we roll this thing over, you're going to see that it is soldered to the circuit board right here. So I don't have access to my soldering equipment, so we may cut this off flush here and then strip these back and actually put these wires into the new unit. And like I said, here the 110 side is over here. So we've got our ground, and then the two power wires, one to the circuit breaker and one up to this bus bar up here. So I think what we're going to do with this is we're going to actually cut open the other cord and peel the outside protection off of the wiring inside, and then we'll just wire that right up into here. So if any of you are going to be working on the same type of camper with the same panel here, this unit is bigger. I did go with an 80 amp over the 55, mostly because I'm running the two batteries. So this unit is a little bit bigger. You can see the size difference between the two. I have it stuffed in here now. For the most part, when the panel's on, it'll be tight, but the issue is the mounting ears are sticking out past the electrical center. So we're gonna have to make a modification here, if you will. I'll try to show you everything I do as I go along. I think we'll still be able to maybe screw this in, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some investigating here and see exactly how I'm going to get this to mount in there. But for the most part, it does fit. It's just the two mounting tabs that are going to interfere with the front cover. All right, so this looks like it was easier than I expected. So what I did was I went ahead and removed the old converter. I went ahead and cut the wires off flush down here and left a little bit of color. There's nothing wrong with this unit. It's just not compatible with the lithium-ion batteries. So I went ahead and removed the battery wiring there, and also the power and the ground right here. So we may hold on to this unit, maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, so we have the new one in there. Actually, the tabs slipped in the back, on the back of this. There's like a little slot in the back where this slides in, and that fit in there perfect. And once it's in there, it can't move side to side. So what I did was I tucked the wires up here for now, just so I could test it. But these are the old converter wires here, and I stuffed the battery wires in here. So on the bottom of this, you can see there's like these little reinforcement fins in between the two vents. I went ahead and I cut, here's a piece of it right here, just used my side cutters and cut a piece of this out. And it's just, when I hold this up here, you can see the one side, this ear right here, would have hit that fin, the reinforcement fin. So I went ahead and took that out, and voila, just like that, the cover will fit and it'll screw in, and there's no chance in it for it to move around inside of there once it's all in. So that looks like a win, and it was a very easy solution. This converter came with a pretty good instruction manual, which you don't see very much anymore. Everything's online, but it did come with one. So before we go wiring this in and getting it where we can't get to some of this stuff, we're going to go ahead and set this up. It comes from the factory set for lead acid batteries. So you have a lead acid battery mode, and then you have a fixed output mode, and then you have the lithium. We're going to switch this one to lithium. The fixed output is also adjustable. You better know what you're doing when you start playing around with that stuff. But we're going to use the algorithm that is included in the machine for the lithium-ion batteries. I do want to mention that this Vevor converter came with this little bag. It's got some extra fuses in it. It's got fuse covers in it, fuse puller, and Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, I'm not sure what that really was for, but it did fit inside of here, and you can probably just barely see it there. It's just a 3-position switch. So I just used the screwdriver and pushed it all the way over to the lithium side. And of course, this doesn't, the fixed output, you don't have to mess with that. It won't do anything unless you're in the fixed output mode. And that is where the screwdriver would go in there, because it's like a adjustable rheostat. We're going to go ahead and put these covers that came with the unit, we're going to go ahead and put them on to cover the ends of the fuses. Not that there's anything in there, but you know, most of these ATC fuses have these little terminals sticking out. This casing here is plastic, so there's nothing that would hit it, but I'm going to go ahead and put that on there anyways, just to protect it. I'm not sure why, but I just wanted to point this out. So this is the weird plug that it came with, and it does have a grounding lug on it, but they've also got a chassis ground here. So in this case, I do still have the green wire from the ground here, so I'm going to go ahead and use this existing wire and run it back over there and ground the chassis just to do it. If I did have my own meter, I would check from here to here to see if there was continuity, but it's also not a bad idea to have, you know, that hooked up as well. So these are the wires that I cut off of the old converter, and I've already got the one in the ground side, and then the positive one will go in here. You want to make sure those are pretty snug. Once you get them connected and give them a good turn, make sure they're in there tight. Also, while you're in here, if you have a similar setup, I went ahead, you can check all these screws and make sure they're all still pretty snug. I did find a couple that had come loose. Vibration, could have been left loose from the factory, I don't know, but just, you know, it's good practice. You can check them here. You have some up here as well, and then your ground lugs over here. Go ahead and just make sure they're tight while you're in there. You also don't want to get crazy stripping this back. That right there is, I'll just give you an idea, hold it next to there, just give you an idea how much I did strip back. Now, you don't want to get crazy with that. You don't, as you can see with the white wire, you don't want any strands or bare wire hanging out past the terminal blocks. Okay, so we're wiring up the 110 side. I went ahead and we cut the cord here. Inside of the cord, it looks like this. You'll see the same color wires, the white, the green, and the black. And what we did on the converter side, we went ahead and stripped the outside covering off a little bit to expose the wires. Wanted to kind of leave as much of the sheath on there as I could, and I think I've got plenty enough wire here to stretch between the three mounting points there. You can see it's probably like, if you want to save 4.5 fingers. I believe that's going to be enough. I'm going to go ahead and try and wire that in now. Like I said earlier, the one wire is the ground wire, which is in this this boss right here. I'm going to remove the ground wire from here because it's not quite as long as I would like. So I'm going to gain an extra couple inches and move it into this. We're gonna play the Chinese fire drill here on some of these connections and try to get this green wire on the bottom, so we can have a little bit longer cord, maybe reach the chassis ground right there on the converter. So there's really nothing complex about this. So we have one screw here. We'll back this screw out, not all the way, just a little bit, a couple turns, and then this wire will pull out of there. And the other wire is this black wire, and it's attached right here to the circuit breaker. And there should be a screw in there. If there's anything different, I'll get back and post that. But I believe there's a screw back in here. I see one down here. But we'll go ahead and take that out and put the black wire from the converter in there, and the white wire in this top boss, and the green one in the ground boss. Now I have the ground wire hooked up, and I also have one of the power wires hooked up. So what I like to do is I like to strip it back, and then I like to, I don't know if you could, let me get a better picture there. I like to twist it. This way it doesn't like get mushed out, as you will when you tighten the screw down on it. It has a tendency to kind of flatten this out. So it just makes it a little bit more rigid to that screw, and usually get a better bite on it like this. Okay, so like I was saying, there are screws in the breaker. You can see the bottom one there is pretty evident because that's a larger breaker there. You can see that that's the main. But if you come up, you can see, you know what, I don't, yeah, I guess that is the main down there. There's the other screw is right down there in the center. You can see it. So I'm going to back off that screw maybe 1 or 2 turns, and then shove the new wire inside that hole there. Oh, that was a pretty good job. That screw right there, extremely tight. I actually had to get a bigger screwdriver and jam in there. That didn't really fit in between these, in this small area, but I mean, there was no way that was coming loose with the smaller screwdriver. It was really tight. But I wanted to show you, this is the wire that came out of there, and I kind of feel that when you don't twist them together, this is what you get. So I think if you twist them together, it has a better chance of you know, staying more rigid like this. And of course this one was over tightened too, so but that, I hope it prevents some of that. Okay, so basically I figured I would show this in here. The wire just basically slides down inside this hole, and you'll feel it. It'll like just all the way down as far as it'll go. You'll feel like it'll get stuck, but then it'll go in a little more. So you just kind of stick that in there inside the hole like I have it here, and then you just go ahead and snug that screw up. Okay, it's like I originally stated, I was going to try to use the green wire and relocate it to the bottom lug here to make it to the chassis ground. But unfortunately that wire was just a little bit too short, shorter than I would have liked. So you'll have to get another ground wire. I did cannibalize this ground wire from the piece of the cord that I cut. This sheath right here is really tough to cut. You want to use like a real sharp razor blade or whatever, and you also want to be careful when you're doing that, when you do not cut through any of the insulation. So it's kind of a tricky situation there. You just got to be careful, take your time. Like I said, I don't have access to a lot of stuff right now, but if I did have another wire, I would not have taken the time to cut through that coating there right here. So we went ahead and did it anyways because we didn't have much of a choice. It was either that or run to town to get a piece of wire. Wasn't going to do that. So we went ahead and got that all hooked up. We got our power and our ground hooked up. We got our 110 hooked up. We're going to go ahead and switch the shore power back on, the 110. We're going to make sure that this powers up. And in the instructions, they wanted us to put a voltmeter across here before we connect it to the battery and test the output. So we're going to do that. I don't have a really expensive meter on hand. I just have a cheap one. It's an old analog meter. My good ones are still in storage. So, but anyways, we're gonna, it'll tell us, you know, the range that they want. This meter will be good enough for that. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Actually, now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the positive wire from here, because it did say to test it before making the connection. So I want to remove it from the camper. The last thing I need is over voltage going to our camper and causing any damage. So I'm going to go ahead and take the positive cable back out. And well, you could take either one out. And now that I'm thinking about it, I probably will just go ahead and take the ground cable out. And I'll be right back after I do that and switch the power on. And I'll go ahead and try to videotape me testing it with the meter. Okay, so I decided to go ahead and remove both the wires. I didn't want to take any chance that there be a ground coming through the chassis or the ground cable to the camper. So I went ahead and removed both the positive and the negative wires from these lugs. So we'll have to go ahead and put them back in. So we got, like I said, I don't have a really nice meter. It's kind of an antique. It's a old Radio Shack meter that I think I got from my father-in-law. Just wanted to say thanks, John, for putting some of your tools to work. All right, so what we're gonna do is go ahead and test the output like they requested in the instructions. So we have positive and negative there, and it looks like we're just a tick over 13.7 to 14, somewhere in that neighborhood. So that is within the parameters. And I also want to show you that we do have the mode light, which is orange. Is lit up orange, and that's an indication for the lithium ion phosphate, and the unit is in charge mode. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect the 110 again and make our final connections on the battery side. And we do not have the lithium ion batteries in place yet. That's going to be the next part of this video, is installing those. So we'll go ahead and make these connections and make sure that the rest of the camper does power up. I'll just make a quick note. This is kind of this unit is bigger than the original unit. So like I said, these do stick out a little bit, but they do clear the front panel when you cut that reinforcement tab off. I went ahead, there's a vent hole in the side of the case here, and there's also a fan right here on the Vevor. So I kind of, I wanted to put my wiring up on top of the unit. Like you can see, it's up in here. I laid it on top of it. Kind of, there's a little ridge back here. I don't know if you can see it, but if you push the wire in, the wire will go between the ridge and the converter. So I kind of stuck that in there. This way the fan has better flow and the wire's not blocking this. And like I said, it is tight in here also with the wiring for the camper to the batteries and to the camper. So it's kind of a tight squeeze in there. So when you're pushing this in, you want to tilt it up a little bit in the back when before you put the wiring up on top. And just kind of push it back till it gets, you'll see the edge of the case of the converter is flush with the edge of the case of the wiring center. So like I said, these tabs will stick out, but just as long as you have that flush with there, you'll be able to get the front panel back on. We do have it in there. At this time, I'm not going to install the front cover yet. I'm going to go ahead and power it up and make sure everything comes on. We did put a converter in here as well, run the TV and some small appliances. This is a 1000 pure sine inverter, and it is the cables are for this unit they're run right here. This is the power, and then of course the ground to it is up here. These lugs are vacant on this unit, and you can run the cables back through the existing holes, and I just mounted it to the floor inside here. I'm not trying to get off on a different project. This was before I was making YouTube videos. We did come across this inverter. It was free, and I figured, you know, what the heck, might as well put it in. So we got that, and also another modification I made was we got a 12-volt plug wired in here, and this accessory port is I added a fuse. You have some vacants. You have 1, 2, and 3 vacants, and you can add the you can put the fuse in whatever, you know, well, not whatever in it, but I wouldn't. I've got a 20 in there. Your whole board is you got 2 sections of 40 each, so I got a 20 amp fuse in there, and then it's also in a screw lug. So this is the wire to that accessory outlet right there, and it just runs through the back into this panel. You can access all this stuff here once you take these 4 screws out. This whole box will just pull out of the way, and then you can do whatever you want. There is a piece of trim that goes around here. I don't have it on right now. That it looks a lot better than it does right there. Okay, so the converter is in there, and I'm really happy. I mean, it's snug when it's up in there. It's not going anywhere. Even without the screws and the this plate, when I put it on, this actually falls in between these two, so it's not going anywhere. So it's pretty secure in there. The old unit does have this plate on the bottom. You can see there's screws holding it to the plate right here. If you do decide to try this, I mean, this wasn't really a bad job. I feel most anybody can do it, just if you have some basic knowledge of, you know, really pretty straightforward. The only thing I didn't like was having to cut this cable, but there's not too much you can do about that. But I suggest, I really don't think I'm going to keep this old converter. There's nothing wrong with it. It does got some use on it, but I probably won't be going back to lead acid batteries. So, and even if I do, I can just throw the switch on this, and that I can switch it back to lead acid if I want. So there's really no sense in keeping this. But this plate, this plastic plate on here is actually part of this electrical center. So I may take that off and hold on to that for a little bit. I'm not really sure what's going on. The fan looks like it's, yeah, the fan looks like it's integrated into that, which there is a plug right here to disconnect the fan. So we'll go ahead and take that off, and we'll retain this part, but get rid of the converter. So anyways, she's in there, and I do have my 12 volts. So you can see I've got that flashing, and I've noticed a few other things, the USB ports, the micro ASY 351 is powered up. So we've got, the camper is powered up on the 12 volts. So we're going to go ahead and put this cover back on, and it does have 2 screws in it. I will tighten them up, one there and one there. And we're going to move on to installing the lithium ion phosphate batteries. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, we did have a battery fail, 2 batteries here that failed, and we had temporarily put a car battery in here, right there, just to get by till we could get our lithium batteries. So I ran into town today because these are group 24 cases, and I ordered some group 31, which is this battery, cases, but they were on the loading dock and they won't be processed till tomorrow. So I'll have to go pick them up tomorrow. So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and this battery is just sitting here. So we're going to go ahead and take the car battery out and put the other one in there, and then we'll hook it up, and I'll show you what I have here that I cut into this box and put a battery cutoff. Right now it's in the off position. Alright, so this, like I said, this is a car battery. It's really not a good thing to have that in here. It will ruin the battery, but this is an older one. It was just good enough. So I always want to tell you guys too, whenever you're removing any battery, any vehicle battery, always disconnect the negative side first. And when you install your batteries, you're always going to hook the negative side last. So this is already undone. We're going to go ahead and pull that out, and we're going to remove that box, and we're just going to set the other battery in there. All right, so this is the bottom of the battery cutoff switch that I installed. So I have it hooked to on the negative side. I prefer it to be on the negative cable. So you can see here that I've actually had these crimped, and then I soldered them in as well to get a good connection there. This cover here should just pull off, and we'll remove the screws in the front here and transfer this switch to our new cover. So for now, I'm going to leave this cover as it is on here, and then tomorrow or the next day when the new cover comes, I'll cut a hole in it like this, and then we'll mount this switch to it. Okay, so we have both the batteries sitting in here for right now. Like I said, when the case gets here tomorrow, I'll go ahead and put these in the case and then drop them in, because if I didn't, I would have to put like some kind of wood or something down here, because this is a little bit too wide and the batteries could fall through. But I don't like to leave it like that. I like to have them closed. So we're running 2. What that does is that doubles our capacity. We're going to hook it up in parallel, so it doesn't increase the voltage, but it increases the capacity. I'm running 2 because some of the camping that we have done in the past is primitive, and we rely solely on a generator or solar and the batteries. So that's why we've got 2. Just depends on your usage and what your camper is equipped with. Like I said, we do have a 1000-watt inverter in there, and that will gobble up some power pretty quick. So that's the reason for the 2. Just do your research and see if lithium ion is right for you and what you do. It used to be that the lithium ion phosphate batteries were a lot more expensive than the deep cycle marine batteries, and it's not the case anymore. So it was actually, I got these 2 batteries, and I got the converter. I got those cheaper than I could buy the 2 lead acid batteries, and that's what some discounts we get because of the shop that we have. So this is actually less money than what it would have cost just to replace the batteries. So, and if you do your homework and do a little research, you're going to find out that with the lead acid batteries, typically, if you have 100 I'm sorry, lost my train of thought there for a minute. So these are 100 amp hour batteries, and if you have a lithium ion phosphate as compared to a lead acid deep cycle, the lithium ion, you can use 100% of that 100 amp hours. In this case, it's going to be 200 amp hours because we've doubled our capacity. But on a lead acid battery, typically you don't want to use but 60 to 50% of that battery. If you start going below that, your voltage drops, and it actually causes damage to the battery and shortens its life. So with the lithium ion, it doesn't care. So the volt will just stay up. It'll just drain your capacity down. So these have a longer life. They're claiming 10 years. I don't think I'll have this camper that long, but we'll find out. So according to the Bluetooth, this battery over here is in like I think 37% full of charge, and this one is like 99 to 100. So I'm going to open up the Bluetooth app, and I'm going to monitor this battery and see if it drains off this one to charge it while I'm hooking it up. And then we're going to go ahead and flip this switch here and put the batteries back in line with the camper and see how the that new converter charges these. So typically what we're going to do here is you're going to have your battery positive to the camper. So the cable to the camper, the red one, which is laying on the ground down there, will hook here. And then we have the ground, which I have the switch on. So one end of that switch goes to the camper ground, and the other end of the switch goes to the battery. Okay, so it's really basic and simple. So to have it in parallel, we have additional cables here that I actually got these from AutoZone. Just measure, how far you need to go. Hopefully these will be enough. These were for the 24 series, and these are 31, so they're a little longer. I think the cable will be all right. So you're going to hook from negative to negative and positive to positive with these cables, and that's parallel. Okay, so when you're doing this, like for instance right here, you have your negative and your positive, and you're making these battery connections. You never want to hit positive and negative together. And also, like this one here is on the outboard, so when you're tightening this, you make sure that there's no like this piece of metal right here for the hitch. You wouldn't make sure that you don't hit that with your wrench. I have my connectors pointing in because I believe when the case comes here, I'll be able to loop them over the top of the case like that and then out the vent hole. I do have a lithium ion external charger, and I also a maintainer. So when this camper is not on 110 or shore power and it's just in storage, I hook to this connector right here with the other charger. So all we have now is to hook up the negative side and the switch, which is also on the negative side of the camper. So my concern right now is I've opened the app on the phone. When I make the connection with this cable here to here, like I said, this one's like at 99 and this one's at like 37. So there's going to be kind of an equalization, if you will. So I just want to make sure things don't get too hot. It shouldn't. Both batteries have a BMS system in it, so it should monitor it and control it. So we're going to go ahead and watch that on the app when we hook this connector up. Alright, so the BMS, which stands for Battery Management System, I did touch this cable and I monitored this battery here because it has less of a charge. So it did show that this battery was receiving a charge from this battery. This one was discharging, this one was charging. So, and it was also, the BMS was monitoring it and I started to get as high as like 3.5 amps. So that's nothing. I'm not going to really worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and hook up the switch now. And like I said, this is just temporary till the boxes get here. And I'm going to go ahead and hook up the switch and see what and then flip the switch and see if how the new converter does. Okay, so all the connections are made, and it is showing right now that battery is receiving a charge from the other battery. I'm going to leave this off for a little bit while they kind of equalize, and then we'll go ahead and switch it over and charge them both up. So my idea is once these batteries are charged, I will go ahead and flip the switch back to off, seeing how we're on shore power. And maybe, I think I'll have to look in the manual again, but I think it's once a month or once every so often you go ahead and check the batteries, put the charge back on them. So as maintenance, I guess you could just leave the charger on as well, but in this case we're not going to do that. So you can hear the converter in there. The fan is cycling. Just roughly watching the batteries, and you can see how many amps each battery is taking. So the one battery that was closer to 100% charge is taking less, of course. The BMS is monitoring that, and the so I've seen it as high as like 42.7, but that's pretty good that you got like 40 amps going out to those batteries from this 80 amp converter. So you got to remember, so you got the converters, it's pumping right now, pumping 40 over, like just a hair over 40 amps to the batteries, but it still has other functions that it has to do as far as like running devices inside the camper. All your igniters, your refrigerator, you know, anything 12 volt LEDs. So on top of that, it's so what I guess what I'm getting at, if you had a 55 and you had the two batteries, that might be a little bit too much for it. So you might want to keep that in mind. If you're going with one battery, you might get away with the 55, but you saw how easily that 80 fit in there, and that seems to be the way to go. A little bit of overkill, but it probably will make it last a little longer as well. Okay, I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail here, but these Group 31s, it's a really tight fit, and we're having to do some modifications to the boxes, as well as relocating some stuff on the camper. But what I wanted to show you right now was I got the switch out of the old box and how it's wired up. So we have the one coming off the negative terminal into the switch, and then the one from the camper comes from the camper into the switch and turning the switch on and off breaks to ground. I just wanted to show you guys this. This is the bottom of the battery box, and I drill holes in the bottom because I've found and I've learned from experience that in the past, driving down the road in the rain, these boxes will fill up with water. So I drill a couple of holes in there so the water can get out, and I did the same on the other box already. I'll be back in a little bit. I'm going to put this all together and then kind of go over everything that I had to modify to fit these 31s in here. Alright, so yeah, so the Group 31 batteries are very tight fit. You can get them in there, but it's going to take some effort. We did have to modify the boxes, so on the sides of the boxes there's a handle here. So the handles, I cut the handles off flush with the case on this side. Also had to cut the top of the case here so that they would go together, because they do overhang the box a little bit, if you can see that. So so we had to we cut a notch in the propane cover, because I relocated all these wires and these hoses. They do run down through the battery box, which really isn't a good spot for them to begin with. So I relocated this this hole down right here to the top. There's also, my ground is up here for the tongue jack, and I had to relocate the emergency brake, which is down there. I think that's been moved maybe once or twice, so I think that's all I really did. Hindsight is, I've known what I know now, I may have stayed with the Group 24s. I don't know if you know what the big difference is between the 24 and the 31. Put it in the comments. Well, I was looking at the 24s and they were 100 amp hour as well. So I'm not sure what the Group might have done besides the size. So if you're going to tackle this, you might want to consider the group 24. But if you feel like this is something you want to do, go to group 31. So we did mount the switch in the new cover. We have it there, and currently we've got the batteries disconnected from the camper because we don't need them. So we will probably once a month flip this switch over and check the status of the batteries and let them top off a little bit. Okay folks, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Part 2 will be the installation of the DC to DC charger. So if you're interested in that, you check back with the channel. If anybody finds this interesting, or if you've enjoyed this video or it's helped you some way, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you can, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next video. Take it easy. Bye.